Hello, welcome to the YouTube channel Tech with Ravin. In this video, we are going to practice real exam questions regarding AWS Cloud Practitioner certification exam. So, as you might have known at this point in time, that this is a fundamental level of certification from AWS. So, to pass this AWS Cloud Practitioner certification exam, it is important to understand the AWS infrastructure, service, security, pricing, and support, um, and all these questions will be regarding that in this video. So let's get to the very first question, which is which AWS service allows you to run code without provisioning or managing servers? So it's asking which AWS service where you can run code without having the underlying infrastructure. All you need is code to run. So as we can see in AWS website that AWS has different services. Out of those, these four are given here. As you can see, Amazon EC2, which is Elastic Compute Cloud, which is a computing services, so it has nothing to do with the running the code. If you look at the option C, Amazon S3, which is a object storage for the Amazon. So this is the storage services. This one as well has nothing to do with the combined with the code. Amazon RDS is, as we know, that it is a relational database service. So we left with the option B, which is AWS Lambda. If you'll see at AWS website, you can have a look that AWS Lambda is a service where you can run code without thinking about server or underlying infrastructure. All you need is a code, and then you can simply run those codes. So this is the answer is very simple, and you can have for every question we will have a look onto the AWS website so that we know for sure that which services they are talking about. So the correct answer for the first one is AWS Lambda. So let's move on to the second question. Second question is, what is the maximum file size you can store in Amazon S3? Just asking, what's the maximum file size while storage? As we have talked earlier, Amazon S3 is a storage service where you can store objects. So it's asking what's the maximum file size you can afford. So if you look at the AWS website, you'll see that this is Amazon 3. So where you store your objects, and as you can see, data is stored as object within resources called buckets, and a single object can be up to 5 terabyte. So you got your free answer. So the correct answer would be 5 terabyte. So you can upload store each single file, which is up to 5 terabyte. So move to the option 3, which is what AWS service provides a fully managed relational database services. As you know that AWS provides a lot of services, almost every service that we need as far as the software development or the cloud is services are concerned. So one of the few services that AWS offers is the database services. So it's asking what AWS service provides a fully managed. So they're asking about the fully managed relational database services. let's look at different options. So as we can see that option A, Amazon RDS, which is relational database services, that's one of the database service they offer. Amazon DynamoDB, this is also one of the service they offer. Option C is Amazon S3, as we had talked earlier that Amazon S3 is not a database service; it is a object storage. So C could not be the answer. D, Amazon Lambda, as we had talked previously, that Amazon Lambda is something that way you can run your code without underlying infrastructure. So it's not a storage, it's not a database service. So let's talk about, let's see which one is the correct answer from option A and B. If you'll see at AWS website that RDS, if you look into the products and go into RDS, Amazon RDS, this is a collection of managed service that makes it simple to set up, operate, and scale databases. So Amazon RDS is the one which is fully managed service database. If we talk about the DynamoDB, it is NoSQL. Uh, it is NoSQL server database, but it's not fully managed. So the correct answer would be yes. So what AWS service can you use to set up a virtual private cloud VPC? So I'm asking about a service where you can set up a virtual private cloud in AWS. Option A, Amazon S3, we talked about earlier that Amazon S3 is object storage. It's not a virtual private cloud. To set up a virtual private cloud, you need a different service. As we talked about Amazon EC2 as well, which is Elastic, which is compute service. Amazon AWS Lambda, as we talked earlier as well, it is something where if you need to run codes and you don't want to worry about anything else, you can do that with the Amazon AWS. So the correct answer would be Amazon VPC, which is virtual private cloud. So this service lets you set up a virtual private cloud. Um, so virtual private cloud. So as you can read here, Amazon VPC gives you full control over virtual networking environment, including service placement, connectivity, security, and you can set up your VPS in the AWS Service Console. So the correct answer would be AW, Amazon VPC. Let's move on to the question number 5, which is what is the core unit of AWS Identity and Access Management? So it is asking about what are the core component of AWS Identity and Access Management. If we know that in uh, AWS IAM we have users, we have roles, policies, groups. So these are different component. But uh, if you talk about the core unit, which is one of the crucial part of it in itself, is AWS. So if you look at this diagram, it will make much more sense. This is Amazon AWS Identity and Access Management, and this is for who? For the workforce, for the users, users and workload within within IAM, and then it lets you grant access as well, like the permissions with IAM policies, like who can access what, and then what we have resources. So the key component here to get to let users or assign grant permission or something to the resources, we need to have certain policies. So the correct answer would be that policies, IAM policies is one of the core component. Alright, let's move to the next question, which is Which AWS service allows you to automatically scale your applications in response to change in demand? So what is asking here is that which service of AWS you can use where you don't have to manually scale your application if the demand increases or decreases. So let's look at the options. Imagine EC2, which is a compute service from the AWS. So it's asking about a specific service which allows you to automatically scale your applications responding change in demand. So as we know that AWS, the core purpose of AWS is that it provides elasticity that you can compute as per your demand, you can store as per your demand, you can run the applications as per your demand. You can stress the storage, but which specific service does it automatically? So like, as you can see, we had discussed these three options, which are quite different, not relevant to the question. But so the correct answer is Amazon auto scaling. As the name suggests as well, that it scales the resources automatically when there is a change in demand. If there is a less resources required, it will scale down. If the demand increases, then it will scale up automatically. That's why it's called Amazon auto scaling. Have a look at the Amazon AWS side as well. At AWS auto scaling monitors your applications and automatically adjusts capacity to maintain steady, predictable performance at the lowest possible cost. So we have got the correct answer, which is Amazon auto scaling. On to the next question. What AWS service provides a managed NoSQL database server? If you're watching the video from the start, that at some point of time in one of the questions we discussed about the different database services. So Amazon RES relational database service, it was one of the fully managed service. It was a fully managed service, but it was MySQL one, which is MySQL and Postgres. Amazon S3, it is object storage, not a database service. Amazon Lambda, it's not a database service. So the correct answer is Amazon DynamoDB. So this database, it is a NoSQL database. So we have you see the word NoSQL, that means they're talking about DynamoDB, Amazon DB. So there will be no SQL services for single digit millisecond performance. So basically DynamoDB is used where you need the high performance, that you need your performance in single digit millisecond, which is pretty high. So it works with the NoSQL databases. So the correct answer would be DB. Let's move on to the next question, which is which AWS service you use to deliver content to users without low latency and high data transfer speed? So our key words in this question is low latency. So which AWS service you can use to deliver content? So it's talking about delivering content to users where the latency is low and the data transfer speed is high. So if we'll see, as we all know that Amazon has its edge locations is in different regions. It has the and edge locations as well. Then it has different availability zones. So it's asking about a specific service which we can use to deliver content to users with low latency and high transfer data speed. So Amazon S3, again, we know that it's an object storage, it's not a service. Where it's not a service that you can use for low latency and high data transfer speed. Amazon EC2, again, it's a computing service. Lambda, as we had talked earlier as well. This is something different, not relevant to the question. So we are left with Amazon CloudFront. So as the name suggests, that it's a cloud front to each users. They what they do is they have, okay, let's go to the reference. This is Amazon CloudFront. So it is to deliver content with low latency and high transfer speed. So it reduces latency by delivering data through 550 plus global disparate point of presence. So what AWS has, it has availability zones or regions, and then availability zones. And the availability zones, they have edge locations, and the edge locations as well. Further, they have the point of presence. So they use this CloudFront service where they use where they need to deliver the content with low latency. If we'll talk about some sports events where they need a really low latency, or if we talk about the content specifically like for Netflix or these services, they use this sort of service, this cloud front service by Amazon to deliver the content. Right, expect example of the Amazon CloudFront. Move on to the next question, which is what is the primary purpose of Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud? So they're asking about the main purpose of Amazon EC2, which is Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud. First is object storage, as we had talked earlier. Amazon object storage is S3, not EC2. Then message queue service. So option C, message queue service. Now it has nothing to do with the Amazon Compute Cloud. And D, content delivery, as we had discussed in the last question. It was Amazon CloudFront service, not this one. So we're left with the correct answer, which is scalable compute capacity. So what is the purpose is where you need to compute. So you don't need to have the physical resources or computing resources. All you can do is you can opt up for the Amazon EC2 service, where you can use the instances to create to compute, and then where you can scale your compute capacity without worrying about the physical resources. So the correct answer is scalable compute capacity. See, for secure and resize compute capacity for virtually any workload. So you can see that access reliable scalable infrastructure on demand, scale capacity within minutes. So you can scale your capacity, compute capacity, without worrying about the physical resources, without worrying about the infrastructure. So you can increase your compute capacity without worrying about anything else. So that was the answer. Let's move on to our result. Thank you very much for watching the video, and please like, share, and subscribe the YouTube channel for further informational videos. Thank you.